Welcome everyone so much. Thank you for attending today. We're very excited that you are joining us here. I'm Heather George here at AIT Business Services, and this is the beginning of what we hope to be a monthly Lunch and Learn series. Today we're going to be going over Infor OS and Homepages, and Paul Dubuque and Tim McManus will be our presenters. We're excited that you're here. Before we get going any further, I'd like to let you know that your lines will be muted. So if you have any questions, please use the Q&A and we will do our best to get all of your questions answered during the presentation. And to give a little backstory before we go a little further, I'd like to explain that we decided that there would be a lot of value for our customers to explain some of the new and exciting changes that are taking place within Infor and the Cloud Suite application. Infor has made quite a few developments, and we think that that could make a significant and positive impact for all of you. So these are the things that we feel are worth sharing, and we will definitely be sending out more invitations for new and exciting things as they come up. So with that being said, we have 2 more Lunch and Learns scheduled at this point. The webinar invites will be coming out soon, and the first one will be November 19th to review data views and critical numbers, and the second one will be December 15th to go over Excel add-in reporting. If you have any ideas for future Lunch and Learns, things that you'd like to learn about, we would love to hear from you and welcome any feedback or questions and comments. Our email address where you can reach out to us is info@aitbusiness.com. That actually comes to me personally, and I will make sure that it gets routed to the correct and appropriate departments. And with that, I would like to kick it off. Paul, would you like to begin? Oh gosh, Paul, I can't hear you. Let's see.
Hold. Here I am.
Go.
Can you hear me now? There we go. All right. Sorry about that. I said so many good things about you when I started, so I missed all of them. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and thank you, Heather, for that great intro. Today's agenda is really simple. We're going to talk about 2 topics. Infor OS, what is it? You've probably, if you've been around the Infor world for a couple of years, you've probably heard about it in some ways, maybe peeked under the covers. What does it do? Why would you want it? So let's talk about that. And then we're going to talk about one of the other topics that is part of that, some of the home pages. We're going to actually see that one in action. I know I'm going to step out of PowerPoint and look at real live code, so we'll go ahead and jump in and do that as well. All right, so with that, a little bit of a warning, just on the technical level. So Infor OS can seem like it can be a very technically enabled product or product set. But we want to keep things a little less technical. So we know there are a lot of propeller heads, and I mean that with all love. I think there's a lot of very smart technical folks that help the world go round. But today we're going to try to keep it less technical. So our goal is to make it, not require the full heavy-duty big propeller, just a little bit of a propeller to get us through this. We've got Tim here to kick me if I get too technical and start talking hex or binary, so we'll keep it under control. All right. All right, so next up. So what is Infor OS? So Infor OS is the Infor operating service. So first of all, it's not a system, it's a service. So that can add a little bit of confusion. Infor, company starts with the letter I, and if you add iOS, there's a big technology company that is named after some fruit that might take objection to it. So it's Infor OS. So it's really an operating service. They're not the same as our other friends out there. What Infor says this is is, and I'm going to let you read that yourself. I won't read all of it. It does some technology. It moves some things between some of the different cloud suites. I've paraphrased this from a couple of documents that Infor has put out, all technically accurate, all great. But I'm going to be very, very selfish when I look at these and say, well, what does it do for me? Because that doesn't sound like it's me. It sounds like that does some good stuff for Infor OS. So let's turn it around and see what it can do for us. And we're going to get there in just a minute. So next up, what are the components of Infor OS? Well, there's more technical jargon, and we're going to break these down. We're going to look at what some of them do, maybe figure out what they really can help us with in the business world. So a couple of them is at ION. So probably have heard about that one. That's been around Infor world for probably 10 plus years. So in full disclosure, I've worked for Infor, so I used a lot of these terms in the past. There's some home pages. There's some document management. That one almost sounds straightforward. Data fabric and data lake. Well, that sounds like a nice vacation spot, perhaps. We have AI Coleman. So that's some artificial intelligence that's out there. And then we also have Mongoose. So Mongoose, for all of us that are Sightline CSI folks, this is the tool set that it's built with. So I'm not going to spend too much time in here, but it is nice to get a hat tip from Infor Technology to say that's part of the Infor operating service. So it's a great way to know that what we're using today is here to stay, and it's going to be embraced going further. So let's break down these into a little bit more detail. So what does it mean to you? Like I said, I want to get this a little bit more personal. What does it do for you? So when I look at this, there's a couple of different things that this is going to provide. It's going to provide some security assistance. Well, that's better than just some technical jargon. That helps. In today's world, we need some security, and we're going to go into which one of those components breaks into each of these areas. So we'll talk a little more detail. Let's see, so we have some integration to third-party apps. That's important. That sounds a little bit better than the other technical jargon. So this is going to let other applications talk to each other, share some of that data. This is really where Infor OS really started with the ION product. There's some tools in here to track some process flows. It's a fancy way of saying workflows. So that's also available in here. That can certainly help us. The key place to go to one screen that'll have all the information that you want, whether you're looking at metrics or looking to get into some other screens or other forms inside the business system. Let's give you one page. Certainly sounds like something like Homepages, which we will definitely be getting into today. Outside the ERP collaboration. Wow, that almost sounds like a lawyer wrote that. But this is where we're going to talk about what kind of data that we need to trap and capture that doesn't fit in a perfect home inside the ERP or the business system. So let's talk about where that may come into play. There's a formal document vault, so that's good. And yes, I know CSI has a great place to attach documents. We're talking about a little bit more formal system. And then there's a digital assistant. We mentioned that one. That's Coleman. And then another tip of the hat to the extensibility. So we all are probably familiar with Mongoose. If you're not, please let us know or let your partner know that you'd like some more information about it. But this is some great tools that help you do some more things. So here's what they can do, not so much what they are. So let's talk about each of them in a little bit more detail. Okay, so let's talk about ION. So first of all, ION is that Infor Open Network. So that's key. So the security assistance is the single sign-on. And when I look at the single sign-on on here, I look at this as a good place for both me personally, because I probably have 20 to 50 different things that I have to sign on to and just in my life just for passwords. So if I can cut that down to just one single sign-on, hey, that's good for me. It's also good for IT, because IT can now put those controls in fewer places and attach more systems in there. Yeah, there's more work under the covers that has to take place, but that helps both me personally and our IT department. The ecosystem to connect different applications. Well, this is very helpful because you as business owners or business workers may have other applications outside of CSI or Sightline that you need access to, and the data needs to move between them. And yes, I realize we can use Mongoose to move all that back and forth, and that's great. But there's also some tools inside of Ion that say, well, if I'm doing that with something like Magento, maybe you've got a website out there that you sell your products on, or Amazon fulfillment. If I'm doing that with one of those and I'm using Mongoose to build that integration, that certainly can work. But if I start adding another one in there and add another one, how do I keep track of all those different points of integration in here and make them all work? So the whole goal of Ion with this is keep them all talking amongst each other. They set up some business platforms to say, this is how you talk about sales order. These are the fields that I need to know. This is the data that I need to know when I'm going to create a sales order. And I'm going to tell you whether you were successful in adding that. So when Magento or Amazon Fulfillment sends it over, all that information comes through. If one of those systems changes, we still use that same document to say, here's the data I need, so you can do what you need on your side, but here's the data I need to make sure that all matches. So Ion's a great tool to keep those two different or three or four or more systems talking to each other without having to build that point-to-point integration and worry about any of the upgrades. Because anytime you do an upgrade, first thing you want to think about is what are all the places that it's going to break. And this can help with eliminating some of that. So just something to think about. And it does say in here, Infor and non-Infor, so that's a key thing. Infor has lots of products. There are a lot of different products, and Ion is a great tool to start talking amongst those, so whether it's an asset management tool or if it's an outside the system, it's not an Infor product. So as I mentioned, Magento and others, so they can be any other system as long as it can speak the Ion language. And we won't get too technical in there, but there's a language that it uses to transfer and pass data back and forth. Then there's also the idea of workflows in here. And again, you're going to come back and say, Paul, it's a great event management system inside of Sightline already. I don't need another workflow system. Yep, you're right, there is. And I'm not saying stop using it. I'm just saying that there's maybe another one that can help you with some things. Maybe when we're dealing with Magento or we're dealing with these other third-party applications, part of that process, before it gets to the ERP, we need to trap some of that activity. So the workflows also look a little bit different. So they're a little bit more graphical in here. You can drag and drop. You can add some of the rules and some of the conditions. Do I need a form to pop up? Do I need an email to go over? What do we want to have happen in here? Very interactive, and it works, in the whole Infor OS. So it's really part of that system. So whether it's dealing with CSI or Sightline, or dealing with some of the documents that we may use in our document management, or any other areas, it's really built to put that workflow above the business itself, not just inside the ERP. Right, so Mingle and Homepages. And yeah, I listed it that way. Years back, it was called just Mingle. And Mingle had one single purpose, and we'll get to that one in a minute. It actually was enhanced and improved in many ways to do a lot more. So the home pages were a big addition to Mingle. So the home pages provide a user portal. So we've all heard of customer portals, vendor portals. Well, these are user portals. These are where you as users can log in and say, I'm a salesperson, or I'm in production, I'm an executive, whatever it is. These are the forms that I typically want to use and I want to have quick access to. Here are the dashboards that I want. Here are the KPIs. Here are the alerts that I need to see. Here are the things that I need to do. Put them all in one place. And by the way, you can have multiple pages, and we're going to see more of those. So you can have a lot of different information in here. And they're more than just a dashboard. You can actually enter information in here. You can work with the data in here. So a lot of us are, wearing multiple hats. So we're not just one department. So you can either have multiple pages, or you can combine multiple activities onto a single page. So if you're someone that's doing production, but you're also responsible for inventory control or purchasing, all of that can be on one or more pages if you want it to be. And we'll take a look at some of that in just a bit. So where Mingle started, it was really the outside the ERP collaboration. This is with those conversations that happened. Well, if there wasn't this crazy virus out here, I'd say they'd happen around a water cooler. But when you have those discussions, typically they're done in email. Hey, can we use this particular vendor? They're a little bit more money, or they're a lot more money, but they can get it to us quicker. Are we okay with that? And it's usually something that's done via email or a phone call. Well, 6 months later, someone's now looking at the cost of that job that went through, and my goodness, the price was way out of whack. Who said that was okay? Well, now we have a place to trap that. In the past, it's all outside the ERP. Well, now we're going to put it inside the business system and keep the ERP informed of it, but give it a good home for it. So that Mingle is a great way to do that kind of collaboration, keep those communications, and they're not just in an email system. The challenge with an email system only for that communication is someone leaves or someone's not in that day. How do you get to their email access? Well, if it's in a social network or if it's in an environment where we can do that collaboration, we can go through back by document and see who's done what kind of communication. So a great tool for keeping everyone up to date and informed. IDM, so this is Infor Document Management. Kind of self-explanatory, and again, you're kind of come back and say, Paul, there's a great place to put documents inside of here. Yep, there certainly is inside a Sightline, but this is looking at it from an enterprise level. This is a place to do that creating, the viewing, the editing, the storing of any of those types of documents as well. So you can do those in here, but it's beyond just linking documents. It's really putting the documents in the process itself, and it's really having those documents in the right place at the right time. So this is a great place to start looking at what documents are coming in from our CAD system that need to be approved by someone in engineering as well as someone in production. Add that to a workflow now. So that's not just part of a CAD system. It's not just part of putting a bill of materials. It's that intermediate step before all of that happens. So this gives you an opportunity to store that document as well as interact with any of those workflows. And I think we have a couple of workflows that do that in our sandbox that we're working with today. So it's a great way to take this just from linking documents to really managing those documents. So Data Fabric and Data Lake. So I've heard Data Lake for a few months now. Data Fabric's probably one of the newer terms that I've heard out of Infor. But what this really does is it gives you a place to store other data as well as your ERP data that makes it available for any type of analytics that you want to use. So whether that's an analytic from Infor itself, we've got a bunch of them that we can help you with. It could be analytics that you're using on your own, but where do we want to put that data? So we help customers move from old systems onto Sightline, onto CSI. Maybe they want to still access, maybe you still want to access some of the old information so you can do that year-over-year search of what was our sales, month over month, what did we do last year this same month. We could do those analytics if we link up our old data right in this data lake, the data fabric. It's a great place to put that information in. And it doesn't have to be a database itself. This could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be an Access database. I know we try to eliminate all those different silos of information as we go through implementations. There's lots of them out there. We try to eliminate them. That's really one of the big goals of using an ERP. But we know there's probably still a couple that are going to stand out there just because they're phase 2, they're phase 3 part of the implementation, or somebody just can't let it go. We have to have that other Excel spreadsheet. But we need to use that Excel spreadsheet or the data in it for some analytics. Well, this is a great tool and a great method to put that all together to give you one place to go get that information instead of doing all those point-to-point and pulling data from one place and pulling from another and having to build an intermediate spreadsheet. It's a great way to combine and lessen all of that. All right, so any questions so far, Mr. Tim?
No, we're good. One thing in terms of the data lake and some of the things you can do with it. And I know a lot of you guys are already up on this application, but some of our customers have other divisions that are on still like SAP or something like that. And maybe they're going to get, go to the Infor platform. What do we do with data conversion? And this is a great way to actually have your historical data, have it out there, have it intact, and you can design this. You can actually design this with the Mongoose forms to come in and be right in there in the Sightline application. So there's a ton of possibilities that you can explore with this.
Excellent. Very good. All right. So next up is, we had one more. I forgot. We had AI Coleman in here. So Coleman is our digital assistant. It is, I personally think of it more of a digital assistant than artificial intelligence quite yet, because it's not quite learning on its own. You do have to teach it its skills, but it's nice. So all of us have dealt with the Siris or the Google Assistant or Alexa. You can teach some of them some skills to do some things, but as a kind of a back-end way, you have to load different things. Coleman itself lets you define those terms. Here's what I want to say, and then here's what I want you to do based on that. It could be opening up a form. It could be opening a form and loading a particular, item in there, or creating a sales order. You need to tell it what you want it to do and teach it that skill, but it can help you with doing that. So if there are some repetitive tasks that you have or repetitive information that you want to get out of the system, Coleman's a great assistant to help with that. And it's available inside of the Infor OS as well. All right, so we've gone through most of the components, high level, just giving you an idea of what they can do, where do they help you. We're going to take a look at one of them. One of them is Homepages, and you're going to have to bear with me as I move that page over to here. And Tim, let me know if that's popping up and showing on the screen.
We're looking good.
Okay, good. Very good. All right, so it is on here. So this is one of the home pages. So I'm logged in. I'm in our multi-tenant environment. I've got these home pages. You can see I've got my customer service homepage, and you can change the name, and you can look for different ones. You have these little bubbles that go up here that show you the different pages that are out there, and it'll list a couple of them. And as we bounce through some of these, the executive one's got some information, and some of them will prompt you for some different information as it goes through, so you can have it populate some different information that's in here. You can see as we walk through this, the purchasing one has a different page that has some different information. And we're going to go through and build one of these pages out in just a moment, so don't worry that I'm flying through too many of these too quick. I have our Lunch and Learn page, so we're going to start with something really simple, and we're going to add to it. You'll also notice you can change the colors in here. So these are editable. The colors themselves I look at as helpful, giving you a visual cue. So if you are someone that wears multiple hats, I go to my red screen when I'm dealing with purchasing. I go to my blue one when I'm dealing with production types of issues. It gives you a quick look to make sure you're in the right page at the right time. Here I've picked orange because, well, it's almost Halloween. I figure that's a nice color to show us. You can also look at the drop down here, and there's additional pages. So you'll notice that I have some that say copy, and there's some that have our company name, attached to them. So when you build these pages, you can publish those pages. So if you're someone that's authorized to build and create these, you want to share that page with others, you can publish them so others can use the exact same page. If that page is published and you call that page up, they can't edit it. They can copy it and edit the copy of it. So just know that there's ways to keep, to start with one, share that with somebody else. They don't have to start from scratch. They can take what you've done and change it, alter it, and build their own if need be. But it's a great way to start building different tools that are out there or different pages that are out there. So in this case, I'm looking at one that has some announcements in here. Looks like there's a Halloween party that Tim's setting up. Looks like Dwight's going to retire soon, and we're going to come wish him well at Finnegan's Bar not too long from now. So 5 o'clock on Friday. So I guess drinks are on him maybe. But this is the goal of showing this in here is this can be a company bulletin board. Maybe you have, a Kaizen team that's going through a different department, and you want to make sure, hey, purchasing, we've got Kaizen coming in today. We're going to take care of, some of those long lead times and figure out what's going on with that. Whatever those topics are that everybody needs to know about, and you can make these by department, or in this case, I think we've got these set to all. So you can make them very focused or very department focused, and let people know what's happening. So it's a great way to treat this as just a company bulletin board. I have notes in here, so you can come in here and you can, type whatever you need, and I won't type too much because you'll just, I'll get a kick out of my bad typing, so you'll see that. But these notes, the reason I show that on here is if you're like me, you've probably got a notepad or 6 or 7 kicking around your desk, and they're all in different spots, and when you want to find the right ones at the right time, it's never where you want it. So putting a notepad on your desktop is a great way. You got off the phone with a customer, check on order XYZ, I can put that in there, give them a call back. I can put some notes, quick notes that I need to take care of, all in one place. I put an image of palm trees in here because sometimes I have a bad day and I just want to look at palm trees as my moment of zen, if you will. So put pictures in here of what you want. I know a lot of us are working from home these days. They could be pictures of your kids, your family, your pets. They could be pictures of your products that you're selling so that you have images of what you're selling. So if someone calls a common product that they're asking about, I want to have the description and the display there so I can quickly call it up and look at it and do more with it. So these are very flexible. I'm using it for, again, very personal reasons, but you can build these for very business type reasons. So speaking of documents, let's go ahead and expand what we see in here. We're going to add a couple more widgets. So each of these, you'll see they're little tiles. You can come over here. I'm going to hit this little ellipse, those three little dots, and it's going to say, let me edit some things. You'll see a number of things that are available. I'm going to just say, edit the page. It comes up and it says, all right, here's all the items. It takes all the data off and it just gives me an empty frame so I can paint with that or drag and drop with any of those. I'm going to add a widget. So in this case, I'm going to add an application widget, and this one is going to be one of the documents. So I'm scrolling through this list. There's application, there's business intelligence, some process, statistics, social, utilities. There's a number of them in here. And over time, Infor keeps adding additional widgets so you can add more things as they get developed. Very similar to what we see in some of our mobile devices, that widgets are available that you can include different types of data. But these actually know about the ERP, so these can point right into the system and pull out that information.
And Paul, I'm going to call. Sorry, real quick.
Sure.
Another thing, there's also an SDK that you can build your own widgets, and some examples of that. Some people have built in interfaces to IoT devices or other things like that, other outside dashboards, so you can actually create your own widgets and develop within this application.
Yep, good point. And doing that, you do get to wear the full propeller head to do all that, because it does take a little bit more technology, but it is very flexible and open to doing all that. So great point. So in this case, I'm going to pick up the IDM documents. If I just click on any of these, you're going to get this little expanded window that tells you a little bit more who published it. It doesn't tell you too much, but I really want to hit this little plus sign. The plus sign, you'll see it makes a little message off to the side saying it's adding a widget. I can add multiple widgets at the same time. I'm going to do one just to start. You notice it added it in here. I like to have my documents much bigger, and they need to be wider. So you'll see it starts moving it around. I can move this to a new spot. So maybe I want it to be the first thing, or I want to move some other things around. Whatever else I want to do, I can really reposition this, or you can reposition this to where you feel it makes sense. I'm going to hit save here. So that's good. I've got this big widget that says documents. There's nothing showing in here. So here's where you can come through and say, well, let's configure it. I'm going to make a carousel because I talked about a bulletin board before, that you can make this a company bulletin board, but this could also be a company bulletin board for people that are in sales or in promotions or just company-wide that can have a number of different documents to it. So I'm using IDM, so I've already loaded some documents in there, so we're going to pretend we already know how to do that. And I'm going to say, let me go look at those documents, and I'm going to go scroll down here. It's my office carousel, and I have to give it a name. And I'm going to give this a name, bulletin board. And, yep, told you I'd spell something wrong, so here we go. There we are. So we've got that. You can give it a description if you want to. I'm going to say OK. You can make multiples in here. You can have these change the pictures every and I say pictures, the documents, because it gives you a little thumbnail of each of them. I'm going to say go ahead and save this. And it comes up. So now we have, maybe you're a salesperson that your monthly specials want to come up here. Certain products can have up there. You can have different incentives for your sales folks. Want to put that out there. How many days since injury at every factory I walked around? You see that in multiple places. They want to keep track of that. Great place to put some company-wide information or department-wide information. It's a great place to put all that. You can update it in one place, and now everybody that has it on their screen gets to go see this. Perfect for those that are working from home and can't get to that that bulletin board. It's right here on my desktop, so I can still see all that information right in here. Some other things that we can go ahead and add. So I'm going to add a couple more. We're going to build these one at a time, and let's go add. Let's go edit the page layout. We're going to add another widget. In this case, we're going to add some critical numbers in here. So if we start reading some of the details in here, we see some critical numbers. So I'm going to say, let me add the critical numbers in here. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to pick that critical number, and we're going to say, OK. That looks good. We have the critical numbers. I don't need it to be too big. I'm going to hit save. And I've come back. It still wants me to configure it. So now I get to go pick which critical numbers I want to put in here. So maybe these are, you know, inventory, whichever it is. You can go pick that information that you have in here. So I'm just going to pick inventory value, and it's going to go out to the database. It's going to go out, look in CSI, and give me some information. So it's going to be very easy to get to. And by the way, I can click on here, and it's going to jump right into CSI, go to the appropriate windows. This might bark at me because I didn't have everything set right, but I got it right. And you can do whatever you need to do inside the ERP right from looking at it from one of the widgets inside that home page. So you can use the home page to narrow down what do I need to work on. Here you can get in and do the actual work. To get back to those home pages, you have a couple of different ways. I can hit the logo. Those of you that are using this probably either have your own logo or an Infor logo there. We have ours showing up, or you can hit the little waffle button that gives you all the different options in here. And I'm just going to say go back to home pages, and there we are. We're back home. So very easy to add. So we're building this as we go here, and we can keep going with this. So I'm going to come up and say, well, what else do we need to want to put in here? So let's put a couple of new widgets that are more CSI specific. So I'm going to go right back to the same place. I could add widgets from the other screen. I like to have the option of stretching them around. So in this case, I'm going to add two Cloud Suite ones. One of them is going to be a view of the form, and the other one is going to be a display of the form.
Hey,
Not
Paul?
very clear which. Yep. Sure.
Just real quick, while we're still talking about critical numbers, question came in, can custom critical numbers be chosen to display on a widget? A little bit about critical numbers for those of you who don't know what they are. They're KPIs. They come with the Sightline Cloud Suite application. You get about 130 of them out of the box. You can take those and use those. You also can absolutely create your own critical numbers. And to do that, you use the UI to kind of drop down and go, you know, there's the customer and there's the dollar amount and all that sort of stuff. You can put limits on it, alerts, you know, when it's over a certain amount, I want it to behave a little bit differently. But the awesome thing is getting back to that data lake side of it is if you've written this so that, you know, you've got the data lake pushed into the Mongoose application. And I know Paul said I was going to protect from being a propeller head, but sorry. But using kind of the IDO layer, you can actually take and develop critical numbers that are looking at information that's in the data lake or some third-party system. So it's virtually unlimited in that sense in terms of customization and, you know, data sources.
Perfect. Great examples. So I'm going to add two more widgets this time, and you'll notice one says view of the form, and the other says display of the form. Sounds kind of the same, but they're different. So view of the form is going to be giving me an option of some quick views that I can change in here, and the display is the other. So we're going to add them both, and we'll see the difference to them. So you're going to add them both. You'll see what they look like. We're going to stretch them out so they're a little bit bigger too, because there's a lot of good information in here. So I am going to stretch this out. And let's see, we're going to go there. We're going to make this one bigger. You'll notice the other form, you know, moves down, and I'm going to make both of these much bigger. And as I stretch it on my screen, oops, I need a little more real estate before I can stretch. So there we go, stretch, and spring it out. So we'll just give it a big screen. So we have plenty of room in here, and you can use as much real estate as you want. And I'm going to say go ahead and save in here. Again, we get that same configuration option. So I'm going to come in here and say, all right, so let's pick. So in this case, we're doing something like, let's look at the customer order quick entry form. It's in here. I know it's, I may probably scrolled right past it. There we go. There's the one I want. I'm going to put that in here. And then I'm going to come down to this form, this one, and say, all right, this wants to know the exact customer, the exact form. In this case, I'm going to call it customer orders. And this is where spelling counts and no spaces in there. So it's looking for the form name that is going to be used. So in this case, you are probably familiar with that form. That is just the standard customer orders form inside of CSI. That's available. You can do a lot of the same things in here that you can do in the regular form. You also have the ability in the quick one to say, all right, I'm going to look at one of these orders and I can see lines in here. I can add new lines. You can go ahead and complete this order right from this window itself. So if you're someone that sometimes needs to put some orders in or all the time has to change some orders, great place to start doing that quick lookup and make the changes from one screen, especially if you're multitasking and having to not just look at orders, look at inventory, look at a bunch of other areas. You can do that all from one screen. So you imagine setting up a couple of these different tiles or widgets inside your home page for what makes sense for you. I went through a couple of those kind of quick. I'm going to add a couple more. We have a couple more screens we're going to add. More things just to give us a little bit more flavor in here. So I'm going to come back up. We're going to hit that ellipse. We're going to edit this one more time. And again, if you've done this a few times, you can add all of these at once. I'm just going through the motions of adding these individually. I'm going to add something that's called a menu option in here. And it's not because it's close to lunchtime. It is a menu that we're going to use. And you'll probably want way down the bottom, and that's okay. We'll leave it down there. We might drag that up. And we'll leave it where it is. So I'm going to leave it where it is right now. I'm going to hit save. Scroll down, take a look at it. So we get this list in here, or we get to build a list of applications or forms that we want to go to. Of course, my screen refreshed, so it scrolled it off. If I hit add link, this is going to ask me for some cryptic way of describing the form, and it's probably more letters and characters than I care to ever type, and I know I'll get them wrong. So instead of doing that, I'm going to click on this little ellipse up here that says add it from a bookmark. Okay, I can do that. So I get that. It gives me a list of all the bookmarks. I only have one, so we're going to go add some more in just a moment. So now we can go and look at the inventory control home. Well, happened to be the bookmark I had. Pick whatever you want. So let's pick that. That looks like a beautiful icon for it. We're going to say that works. So we've got a menu. Now, why did we do this, and where would we use something like this? The goal of this is to give you a place to put all the applications that you use on a typical day or at a typical time all in one place. So some examples, if I'm someone, like I said, that's always in sales order entry and I need to jump over and do some other things, maybe I need a quick access to a couple of other forms inside of CSI. I can put them in this menu. Maybe I want to put up a folder together or a list in here of all the reports that I want to do on a weekly or monthly basis, that I want to keep them all together in one place so I can do them all from here. Yes, I know you can do them inside of CSI. You can put up your own folders and all that, but that's great. You can do that from here. So again, one screen, enter orders plus jump into any of those forms all from one place. You could also use this as a place to add other items in here, other reports and forms, and use it very interactively. So maybe you have a daily production meeting where you're going through, what do we need to work on today? And we want to keep a list of all of those. We want to open up some of those forms and have them real handy so we can jump between them without having to fumble around and find out what we need to call up. So I'm going to move over to CSI just for a moment, and I'm going to open up a couple of different forms in here. So I'm not going to do anything with them at the moment. I'm just going to open them up and then we'll add the bookmark in just a moment. So once we get these in here, so inside of CSI, where you add the bookmarks, and they're not the browser-based bookmarks, so if you go look at those, you're not going to find them. These are ones that are in here. You'll see that little bookmark that's in here. And this goes through and says, all right, bookmark this page. What do I want to call it? Well, customer orders. Yeah, that sounds good. And it adds it to the list. And you can see that inventory control home is already in there. I'm going to go ahead and bookmark a couple of others. Bookmark this page. Yes, we're going to call it purchase orders. That sounds great. Move over to items. I'm going to say bookmark this page. We're going to not get fancy and just leave them as they are. I'm going to jump right back to my list. And I'm going to say, all right, from here, I'm going to link more bookmarks. So I went to CSI, opened the forms I wanted, created the bookmarks. Now I'm back in my home page, and I'm going to come through and say, tell me those bookmarks you added. So I just stored them out there, and there's a tool in there to manage these, so you can remove them, rename them, whatever you'd like. I'm going to say, yep, add that one, and what do we want for customers? We're going to say, oh, they get a shopping cart, so that gets added to it. I'm going to add another, we're going to add the others in here, and we'll do some moving around. So let's see, so we want purchase orders, purchasing, we're going to purchase wrenches, and one more, we're going to have gears here for items. So let's go ahead and add that in. So you'll notice all of those get added in here. Well, customers, maybe that's a little bit different. So just to give you a little bit of flair, you can come through and say, well, maybe I want to make those red. Or I made them all red. I changed everything in the group, but I could make just that one red. Also create a separate group for any of these. So maybe customer orders is its own separate group, or create a folder to put all those in. So my weekly meetings, my monthly meetings, however you want to break those up. The goal here is really to give you different options of putting quick access information, quick access to the core forms that you use inside of CSI. So with that, I'm going to take a breath and say, yeah, go ahead. Yep.
So one of the things you can also do with that is, that menu there will open up the items form or the purchase order form or something like that. But you can also configure those buttons to open those forms with filters in place. So for instance, maybe a planner code, I'm a planner, I can have that menu option open up the items for my items that are designated by my planner code.
Perfect. And with that, there's probably a little bit of extra editing that takes place inside of the string that we have in here.
Propeller.
So propeller stuff, but not too bad. It's really just copy and paste. So any of you that are interested in this, feel free to reach out to us. We'll show you what that code is. It's really kind of simple, but I didn't want to put a lot of garbly-gook of hex and all sorts of different symbols on the screen and scare someone thinking that they needed to do lots of that. But all of that's available. You can reach out to us. I'm sure, if you're with other partners, they can help you as well. So feel free to contact us with that. I'm going to jump back. If there's no other questions, any questions right now?
We've had a couple, but we've been kind of answering them.
Okay.
Publicly, yeah.
All right. So what we covered, we talked a little bit about security assistance. We talked about integration to other applications. Ways to do some workflows. That workflow example I had, I think, was one that Tim had. One we didn't show inside our home pages, and I'm going to call that back up, Tim, because I think that is key to show and talk about. We missed it. I don't know how I missed this one. So this is dealing with posts. So sorry for jumping back here, folks, but I think this is a very important one that fits on here. So we've got our posts. I'm going to come back and hit save. Let the screen refresh itself. Right down the bottom, there's a list of posts that happen. So, even as we're speaking here, I've got different people in the organization that are posting different information in this list, and we can open any of those up. So this is part of that Mingle, that social collaboration that we were talking about. You can look at the details that are in here. I can put comments and give feedback about this. In this case, there's two things that Tim was posting about. One was a document that was inside our workflow. The others went right to a specific item. So if I'm working on this and Tim says, Paul, you need to take a look at this. You need to evaluate whether you approve or change or whatever I need to do. I have access to drill right into that right from here. So one click away to keep this information. And all of that is stored in history. So if a couple of weeks go by and Tim says, did you even look at it? Yes, I did. Here's the response. We have all of the details that are accessible in there. So this kind of brings us back to that social collaboration. Again, yet another piece of the Infor OS. So we've talked about the workflows, the Mingle pieces or the collaboration, the documents. All of those really do work together, even though we're using just our home pages. So have quick access to all of that as well as right into the ERP.
Hey, Paul, can I
Yep, sure.
Derail you? Back on that items form, the way that I actually sent that notification is you look in the upper right-hand box, you've got kind of your inbox and this kind of funky little, in between bookmarks in my inbox there on the right. Yeah, so I can share that.
Phone?
Yeah, that's the one. So basically, if you're on a record out there, if you're looking at a customer order or an AR aging or something like that, you can just hit that share button, and you can share it to users, groups, anything like that. And once you do that, that would go onto my feed, and now we can start having a conversation about that.
Perfect. Great. Yes, if we come back, that should show up in that feed again. So here we are. So it all flows through. So I just sent it out to you, and you can see it's already in our post, in our list of what was sent out. All that details are always there. So it's a great way to keep that feed of all the activity. Great point. All right, so we did that. We talked about single pages. We spent good time in that. We talked about the collaboration. We just spent a few more minutes in that. We dealt with the document vault. Those were those files that were flowing through with the sales information on it. The digital assistant, we didn't do much with today, but there's a little button in the top of the screen, and you can teach it some skills. And we all use Mongoose and the extensibility. Maybe it's easier to type than it is to say, but extensibility here, we can see that as well. So we covered quite a bit today. I'm going to open it up to any questions while we look at our, future sessions, lunch and learn sessions that are out there. If there's any final questions on this or anything else, Tim and I are happy to help answer any of those questions.
So we did have, Paul, a couple of things. Just someone was just asking in terms of the home pages you were working in. Were they the Mingle Homepages or the CSI Homepages? And yes, they were the Mingle Homepages. And that is, along with iOS and other confusing marketing terms, they're calling them homepages in Mingle. They're calling them homepages in the ERP application. And my guess is that's going to change to, one of them is going to be called a workspace from now on. But there are individual purpose-built role-based homepages in the ERP, and that is not what we were showing. This is more, outside of that, ERP plus more, and you can, really, you cannot take a customer homepage in the ERP and start easily adding, accounting things or inventory things, whereas here you're able to really customize your workspace.
That's a good point. And to not to open up a time warp or anything, but you can actually put the CSI Homepages as one of those widgets inside the Infor OS homepage.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that opens up a time warp and we chat of the space-time continuum, but you can have them both working together. So don't have to give up all of one just to move to the other. So great access to both.
Absolutely. Then another question, can we bookmark the IDM documents the same way and add them to the menu? Absolutely. So if you're in IDM on a document and you're in the Infor OS environment, you just add a bookmark to that, and that'll be available to add on the menu, just like the application. And the other thing is, as you saw in one of those links, you've got the ability to add drill backs in here. So when Paul opened that thing and there was the two little things to go to the document or the item or, the purchase order or whatever, is you can use drill back. So when you're building a workflow and you send somebody a notification, that drill back can be in there so that they can actually get to that, from their email as well. Let's see, do Mingle Chats that are linked to CSI records appear if we need to go back and look at the conversations that occurred? So that's a good point. So Chris is asking, do the Mingle Chats that are linked in the records in CSI appear if we need to go back and look? So so I started that conversation about the item and how do I get back and look at that from the item itself in CSI. If I wanted to go out there and look at the the related chats about that, I don't think you can do it from there. The application does have some pretty extensive search capability. I'd need to double check of what's in there in the meta tags and everything, but I bet you could probably get into your Mingle post and search from there. But if that's what you were asking, Chris, does it does it launch from that application, from the actual CSI screen? I do not believe it does.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but I think you're right. You can search for it from the actual Mingle pages. There's a pretty extensive search in there. It would not surprise me if that becomes a future enhancement added to CSI to jump back and make those calls, because that would be a very hot topic to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a good point. They really they're doing Infor is doing a lot of development here, releasing things. And Paul mentioned, and Mingle's been around for a long, long time, and quite honestly, I wouldn't have adopted it for a long, long time. But where it's at right now with the connectivity, it's really more than ready for prime time, and it's in a place where we can put this in. And, not just have the technology, but actually put this in and be useful to people, be useful to businesses, and make life easier.
I would second that as well. Yep.
Okay. Any more questions? Well, again, we are recording this. We're going to make the recording available. And we have a number of different types of customers here in terms of, some are working with Infor Direct, some have, you've got your own channel partners, and that's what AIT is a channel partner. If you want to, learn more about some things and have some things done, we're happy to start the conversation and also get your partner involved in anything about that. So I think that's all the announcements I had, Heather.
Yeah, I think that's everything. I'm not seeing any other questions that have come in. So with that, thank you to both of you, Tim and Paul, for taking the time to go through this with everyone today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're very excited to continue these series as the months go by. We'd love to see you join us for them. So with that, I'll give you the last 4 minutes of this hour back to your day. And thanks again for attending.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.